on YouTube. How you doing, Brand? Fine ass. Still fine ass. I knew how fine you was when I took you to the prom. You still fine. No disrespect. Anywho, yeah. This is WNDC, NDC. WNDC stands for We in the Crib and You Ain't. And yeah, that's what it is right now. And if you've been picking up on what I've been putting down so far and just clicking on to this broadcast, then first and foremost, I'd like for you to please tell me, go over to YouTube if you know where I'm at, and please tell me if my sound and everything is coming in correctly. Say hey, hi, like, share, subscribe. You know, if you're feeling frisky, you can donate. I ain't hurting, but nothing says thank you like cash, and well, you know, enough of that. Oh, man. All right, so here I am, and this subject is on this Dr. Bishop Wooten, and you know, his big thing with condoning Beyonce for the church girl song and whatnot. And you know, when he first did it, I was like, hold up. You know, when you're damn near 60, you know, you know, up in that age, you know, before you start going back and protesting about anything, you got to go over there and really look at it as a, you know, conscientious adult. And I did so. And I read it, and I couldn't find anything worth having that kind of discuss, moral discuss, especially in a manner to which this pastor professed and then published. I can't even make this up. Yeah, this, you know, the background is my man Haas. He's spinning down the street from me right now. Eaton Radio, doing his little set. I done already told him I'm on at 5, so hopefully he's realizing that I need more instrumental and less vocal. But here we are, and you know, the biggest gem that I found so far in this whole little tirade of this subject is the cussing preacher's reply. OMG. My mom often gets in my butt about the casual few little cuss words that may spew out of my mouth in the process of me being very adamant about my opinions on certain things. But the cussing preacher, you know, initially it was a novelty. I didn't really think he was a preacher, that, you know, he was just cussing like he's cussing. But the way he cussed at Bishop Wooten this time, yes, Lord. You know, it deserved every bit of Bishop Wooten jumping out of his cloth and going over there to try to scrap, because he hit him below the belt where he should have. I kind of tried that earlier when I first got a bit of his sermon. You know, everybody's been up in their feelings in a certain kind of way about this whole thing. But what I liked about him the best is he spoke on the damnation of Beyonce's soul and the audacity for him to even claim that that's even possible when, you know, being a man of cloth, you should know that the one thing that does not belong to you by religious belief is your soul. So, the house version of her first song, You Can't Break My Soul, really flies right into this church girl anthem of sorts. I saw Aretha Franklin, I saw Whitney Houston, I saw many of the other church girls that we forgive once they get elderly, but we condemn when they're young and doing a damn thing. And, you know, we way past that now. See, the biggest thing has been just the mere fact that the church raised us. We've been living off of what we've been living and dying off of. It's all American black folks have had. And we've always hoped that the blood of Jesus, that amazing grace, somehow flow over us unintentionally, unexpectedly, but you know, a miracle. Not just any kind of miracle, the kind of thing that makes it stop for everybody, because we've right now excuse me, the reefer sometimes does that to me. They'll be telling me what I need to. You need to stop smoking. We are right now in 2022. We done went through a rack of stuff. Spiritually, morally, legally, ethically. And just a few decades. I was watching the Woodstock little documentary and realizing I was there. You know, several were there, but the thing that was really deep is it was 1999. And, you know, the hint that Prince was going to come in and be the special guest was even more funny. Due to the mere fact that had he come in right behind there, had he come in and did, you know, 2000 party over, out of time. But tonight we going to party like it's 1999. Had he done that night, I believe that a couple of thousand more people would actually been able to recall exactly how it instinctually felt when you believe those lyrics to enough that you knew that if you made it to 22, 23 years from now, you still be able to remember how it felt listening to Prince close it out at Woodstock. 2000 party over, out of time. A8. But no, this is a little deeper in our psyche because, see, for a lot of the people who are following me, you understand the concept of how the baby boomers will tell you that if you were an adult and you partied back in the 50s and 60s and 70s and you can remember it, you wasn't there. Now we've got people who can tell you that if you partied back in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and you can remember it, you're lying or you're hiding something. And the reason why I say that is because each generation only intensified to where we are right now, 2022. And what really gets me the most is this subject and us as people of color and where we are right now today in this country, on this dirt, at this moment, spiritually. And why, oh why, is this not really making you stop and think a little deeper about all the things that's brought us here? You know, that amazing grace, how sweet that soul that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. He said, you ain't saved. She ain't saved. Didn't have to be church girls ain't saved. I can hear Chris Rock right now. You know, church girls ain't saved. Best things we've known. Now. I'm not going to just stay in the people of color realm because, there's some of you out there of other races and whatnot that can sit back and go, yeah, church girls, church girls. Oh, my God. Catholic girls? Oh, MG. You just don't seem to understand. Yes, you do. And yet here we are. We got everything. We got LBGTQIA and LOP. We got, Black Lives Mattering. We got white power hanging on by a thread. We've got all the other races and faces that we keep trying to put into just this box of white and black, and they really don't like that, but they don't like many of us that are in those boxes too. Now, come on. This church girl controversy, this subject, this issue, has really been making my butt itch a whole lot right now because, see, quiet as it is kept, I'm a proud son of a church girl. My mama can't wait. Been praying and hoping that she could see me on the pulpit preaching as if it was professed to her so many years ago, and yet praying and hoping that she doesn't have to again, have an open casket so she can have a, front row seat. And yet, while I feel the disgust, I remember my aunt used to always put a perm in my hair and say, baby, don't you want to be a preacher? Didn't really dawn on me how serious that was until all the other preachers that came to our funeral spoke about that same thing, was where they took the bait and jumped up on that pulpit. Wished that they could actually be as productive and whatnot as Pastor Wooten, who came out of his mouth with some bullshit that could only be eloquently said by the cussing preacher whom, I've got to copy a couple of good snippets of just the phrases that came out of his mouth because, Lord, he told the truth and didn't shame the devil at all. Matter of fact, both of them was giggling on that one. But here we are, 2022, and we are way past this trying to be bashful about what morality that we were raised on that no longer fits in the reality we sit in, or the mere fact that there's anyone, including and especially our religious structures, organizations of sorts, who seem to be within their rights to basically come out of their mouth with who is and who ain't saved and sanctified, and whatnot. It's bad enough we got that with orders and groups and frats and sororities, and everybody wants to have that drum major instinct, that desire to be first, that desire to call whoever they feel to be hoochies or heathens, or you sold your soul to the devil. How you need to stay in the saved, sanctified, secular organizations of gospel, and and don't listen to none of this other worldly music. And yet, as they sit there, not missing a meal, there's so many people that are starving because their church mom doing the best that they can to make sure that you get there on Sunday, the one day we have to shine. And yet, here we are, sitting here with these people. We're sitting here with these pastors and naysayers and all these other people who have had their own little fresh little version of what they've been told is right and wrong. And for that reason, they have the audacity to come out their mouth and judge others. Yet they be judged, but they ain't ready to cast them stones and throw them. And funny you say that, because for a lot of people down south like that, this one would really jug you in your ribs, just like they did Jesus when, the joke comes up of, last person who dared to do that on air was Eddie Long. And he had one rock, one stone, and he had yet to throw it. Year later took, good Lord took him away. To this day, I don't care what nobody else say, but if his wife was to ever write a very hard, truthful, book on the wife of Eddie Long. Church girl. Whew. It could probably be the instruction manual for the next set of millennials out here. Amen. Because the last set of them were strained on the executive secretary's handbook. With pictures by Norman Rockwell. And yet, the only Rockwell we know, made the best Paranoid song ever. Had this feeling somebody's watching me. Very Gordy son. Another bipolar project of an era that we now have to face a little bit more forward, than we would really can handle because, prior to where we're at right now, the word bipolar was an evil word. Don't you say that's dang crazy? And yet, it makes a lot more sense right now. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. Right here, right now. To understand that when science is reaching out right now and saying, the earth, our little marble we all sitting on, is spinning and turning and wobbling in ways that they can't really quite tell. Where's it going? Round and round. Where it goes, nobody knows till it stops. Last time that mankind faced that kind of event was back in the era when Jesus existed. Now, what's most important about that is not the mere fact that, it's a Jesus thing, but the mere fact that we all, for the past 26,000 years, at some point or another, after that whole thing, everybody got together and decided that they were going to use Jesus' time. And therefore, they made before Christ, after death. There's a zero in between. And thus, from that zero, they expect for us to believe that everything that we faced and put in as our numerical life and system of everything, science, revolves around 0, 1, and anything else behind is a fraction, and we all hated fractions. And yet, no man, no woman is perfect, so we are all a fraction of the image that we all claim we seek to strive for. And yet 33 and some change years after 0 is the actual time that Jesus actually died. And therefore your 33s and thirds and all the other mathematical stuff exist on the down low. And yet here we are today, 2022, and we are in the throes of the hotbed of the moon in the 7th house, and Jupiter aligns with Mars and peace. Oh, family and all, the spirit of all. This is the dawning. This is no longer the dawning. We are hot deep into this, just like the other people. They was wondering what was going on when they was beating Jesus up the street. Didn't know. Had no clue. What is it, man? I don't know, man. Shit. Somebody said George Floyd or Black Lives Matter or shit. Something. It was, yeah. And they'll write about that, just like they wrote about that when they decide whatever they're going to call where we're at now. And yet, what's really happening right now is that we're already a little past the end of all things. And what the end of all things means, everything that we've known now has to evolve. And it's not going to be pretty, because change is never pretty. As a matter of fact, the more unpretty change has been, the more stronger and better the outcome. And yet, as much as that seems to be unfair, a lot of us older people can tell you it wasn't easy for us to get here. But we spent a whole lot of time on fear that we never would, than we could or should. And anybody else didn't make it. Can't speak for them. And yet, this pastor, this bishop, stood up on his pulpit and broadcast his defamation of the character of Beyonce for making Church Girl. And how the girl who gave permission for them to take a snippet of their hit record, gospel record, speed it up and stretch it and pull it and make it their own, and then make it the meat and potatoes for Church Girl. And then they talked about this Church Girl, how she tried to do her best, and that she had to get to the club and get on that dance floor and be whoever they wanted to be that moment, and to be, as nothing else, best with who they are. Let it all out, because by morning they got to go to church. Church Girl. No matter how hard they partied and let that go, because they wanted the fellowship. People say you want a fellowship with the heathens. Well, you know, that's what made you. And in many other cases, and for that reason, you know, Jesus did it. He didn't turn out so bad, so why can't we? Well, we can't, because we got people like this bishop dude who's held on so long with this structure of pain, suffering, and death. And this structure of classism, enough that we come and bring our hard earns to promote something that hasn't supported us for the past 60, 80 years. You know, our religion didn't free us. The law did. Or get up off our butt and show them that, hey, sick and tired. We'll not have any of this. You need us more than we need you. That freed us. And yet you can free the butt, but you can't free the mind. Free the mind and the ass will follow, but the ass is extensionally stuck. So stuck that it's kind of like, you know, to see those videos where, you know, they kill a fish or a frog or something like that, and they sprinkle a little salt or something on them, and they start moving again. The flesh. We've been so stuck in remedial enlightenment that even with all of our degrees, we still can't get the spiritual strength and power into which we actually possess to a certain degree that others have literally subjected us to suffering, to, you know, supremacy, to all of this just to prevent us from actually, and now we free. You're free. You're so free that people can't even get the mere fact that federal recognition of Juneteenth fixed everything, because it wasn't about blacks that they freed. It was about all enslaved people that didn't get the memo when they said it the first time with the emancipation. It wasn't like we had TMZ. And here we are now. Half of the problem is we got too many people that are still stuck in the embracement of the addiction to suffering, pain, suffering, because it's good to basically be able to qualify for the benefits for being disabled. And yet we all screaming, hollering, and mad that, you know, things ain't getting better, but it ain't getting better because all of the good people are like, man, shoot, what the world needs now is not a leader. And even that Bishop Wooten dude came out of his mouth and said that we don't need no more leaders. While he came out of his mouth, and the last things in that doggone sermon that stuck out the most is how he had admiration for the sinner. And what sticks out the most to me is, well, you know, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is the most difficult thing to accept, because what it requires is for you to then make one or two choices. Do I humbly accept that I am ignorant and then seek enlightenment? Or do I be stupid and not confirm nor deny, not try to buy into that, this, that, and the other, kiss my ass, all this other stuff like that, and be done with the whole thing? And so for that reason, I would say that ignorance is disability and stupidity is a sin. And yet, we got this Mr. Wooten and all of them, they got it twisted. And that's the reason why we in a whole new math now. So he might have thought that that was a formula that he should still keep teaching people from that pulpit. But the reality is time is different now. That's unflipped. What's bad meaning bad is now bad meaning good. And church girl is more of who we are. We are church people. We've been born and raised by it, no matter how much we did in the dark. You know, the only problem is that now we live in a society where too much of it now comes to the light, and we ain't ready to basically be transparent, you know, and stand up for, you know, what's right, you know, not what's fair or what's comfortable. And our race, our people are suffering from it the most, to the point that we've got a literal power, a fight of the genders, when it requires both genders to create each one of us. And yet we have more generations of people who were neglected, abandoned, and whatnot, that are now adults trying not to do the same thing. And then here comes old Bishop. I wouldn't have really caught much from this Beyonce record. I wouldn't have looked up the lyrics. I wouldn't have listened to it the whole nine had it not been for this Bishop's sermon popping up in the feeds. Ooh-wee. Last time that we had ability to actually feel this kind of emotional about a sermon was Reverend Wright. He almost killed Obama's presidency for a sermon that was, where was the lie? Problem was, if he'd had that same sermon today and not way back then, it wouldn't have hurt so much to all of the white folk that got upset when they read it and they heard it. Made more sense. Because if nothing else, black lives didn't matter as much as they do right now. And yet we as black folks have to do our part. And this is where we start. These subjects, just like this one, is where we start, because, see, no longer can we play shame the devil and tell the truth but not say nothing, not confirm nor deny. We may not need another leader, but we must all learn to lead, because we have to keep up this bloodstained banner until we die. We have to look out for each other. We cannot be a village or a community or anything without, you know, the ability for people to do that. We cannot teach our generations under us how to forgive our ignorance and even stupidity, and have mercy enough to make sure that we just don't become soil and green. They're people. Oh my God, they're people. And yet, here we sit. You know, I ain't 30 minutes into this, and I'm not really not going to take a long time, because I got to go to work in the morning. Speaking of work, church girl. I'm going to have the pleasure of trying to get this, you know, to work this gig, and it's Gladys Knight. Church girl. And I sit back and I think about her career, church girl. How a little church girl was one of the first black children allowed to sing in a nightclub. How deep that is? Heard that her start was had in a club that one of my mom's past husbands actually owned a juke joint. They used to sneak her in and let her sing with her brothers and them. Last night in the Pips. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. That kind of thing was going on. The Little Richards, you know, the Ike and Tina's, the James Brown, the Hendrix, the Eartha Kitts, the Frederick Douglass's, the very things that we all claim as so important for us to embrace as people, and not just black people. Enough for us to keep going through once again another Black History Month and whatnot, and yet we're still living on this doggone marble that's doing some bipolar stuff that is so far beyond us that even the medical field and the mental field can really honestly identify what you need to do when you come back and you say, man, I had a doozy of a day or a night or a time or a trigger or a trauma or something that I need a little help with. I need to be talked about. I need to talk with. I got PTSD. I got post-traumatic slave syndrome. I got it all, and yet we got to deal with these subjects like mega churches that sit back and have the audacity to preach some BS that only makes us more uncomfortable over the reality that as much as we try to stay away from all these other things, people who do nothing, and he said it in his sermon, the worst thing is the silence of the people who come every day, give their tithes, let them get away with something that if somebody had to say something, and that church girl that they was talking about with your mama, many of us would know. It wouldn't take us having to wait until the sermon was over to get into their butt about it. Wait a minute. Ain't she a saint? Ain't she a saint? Master, ain't she a saint? Oh my God. Sankofa, the movie. Y'all ain't hear me. I got so many things on my mind. I got so many troubles on my mind about my people just because, unlike many other people, my little savant butt grew up in the heart of families and a community and everything that was very intensely connected to the civil rights movement. I mean, when they shed blood, sweat, and tears on a daily basis, and we sacrificed our own parents to believe that they were fighting the right fight, and they did. And we are here, and we're grateful that we are children of those church dads and church moms and church girls, all this other stuff. But we are not happy with the whole concept of what church is, these organizations and all this other stuff to this date. Still hate to actually be called upon for total reconstruction. No more than we are ready to do that with our own government. And all of it needs to be done. It ain't gonna be easy, but it ain't that bad. It's just gonna require all of us. And the first people that's gonna have to do this are the people that so many people have been hating to have to still deal with the mere fact that you still have to keep swearing that Black Lives Matter is more important to non-black people in this country than they even know why the hell they have to doggone deal with it. And yet, Beyonce made a record. Church chick gave her permission. Neither one of those two people had anything to do with the making of that music, with the writing of those lyrics, with the publishing of those videos and songs and whatnot. And yet we all got to deal with this dude pointing at this one little girl and damning her soul on the pulpit. And that's just fine with you. And I sit and I feel about the spirit of Aretha Franklin's father, whom preached and then promoted his daughter's singing, and how that's what built this church girl into the queen of soul. And yet it wasn't enough to dance to "You Can't Break My Soul, You Can't Break My Soul." And damn it, if Bishop Wooten wasn't going to try. And then we have to ask ourselves, why are we still continually letting our spiritual guidance people, our structure of the religious moral structure that we support with all of our lives, so help me God, enough to keep getting away with this bullshit that is so outdated that the audacity of them to do so only sells more records to the person who decided, hey man, it'd be brilliant, let's piss them off. Church girl. Last poets, it's always say, they're scared of revolution. They're scared of revolution. They're scared of revolution. But it's the mean machine that's got us. That's where we're at right now. Automatic, push button, remote control, genetic, phonetic will add your soul. This is where we are. Oh, driving me bolts and nuts and screws as we go through, flipping through these feeds as we try to get through our day to day. We pray that we ain't got to deal with all of this kind of drama that we're seeing in our media today, and yet I can't really shake it. And it's really doing more of a number to me, just in the mere fact that there are too many people. They ain't feeling where I'm coming from. I get less comments when I sit back and say, is anybody else feeling this way about this kind of stuff? I mean, ain't you get sick and tired of being sick and tired of people trying to point out something that really honestly exists only because it's had no control. We are just now achieving the ability to have that control today, 2022, to be blamed for it 200 years later. And yet we still have the audacity to dance around these little subjects like, oh, that's good. All about, see you out there. And that's why I'm broadcasting on both my Instagram, Who the Thunk is 01, and here on YouTube. And so if you can find me on YouTube, go like, share, and add as well. I can't stay on here long because I have to be a responsible adult and do me some laundry I probably should have been doing while I'm doing this. But, my inner ADD, HD, and HD has been something else because a lot of the gray matter that I'm using right now in my soul seems to be taken up by these subjects that keep sitting out there and going, man, there are days you wake up and you go, man, to be young, beautiful, and black, and yet we can't make black as beautiful as everybody wants it to be enough because we can't get up off of each one of these little things that we try to run back to as people of color of, not me, not us, not my daughter, not this, that, and the other. And yet we are not ready to understand that, this whole unification that we need to do is something that they've tried to keep us from doing until it became genetic for us to have the inability to do it on our own. And that's why they let him say what they said without anybody else sitting up there, and he really didn't care. As a matter of fact, he's probably sitting back right now, sucking on a doggone pig feet bone, watching all of these people slandering and making him a real current subject in his demographic, if not everywhere else, if you're following this too. But what got me the most about this is that, the church has been lacking one thing that's probably got us even more screwed up. And I'm very glad for people like Larry and a bunch of other people for actually being out with theirs, and being able to be more gay with God. Enough to have their say, too. And in their say, I can agree. There's some bullshit. And we are 2022 too far to be letting all of this just become just, I defend my pastor. I this, that, and the other. You know what? I like me some Eddie Long until he had that one little stone, that one little rock. And if God decides, then he be the judge. And I don't care what nobody else wants to claim. Accidentally just happened. But I believe that we saw a miracle. That less than a year, boom, gone. I want to hear. I want to read. I want to see the Tyler Perry version of the biography of the wife of Eddie Long. All the way back to when she became a church girl. I want to see the biography of Bishop Wooten's wife's girlfriend, side piece, first girlfriend, first love, deal boyfriend, and deacon. All have a biography. And we all get the ability to see it up on a big screen. Like everything else. But I really honestly believe that right now, man, all I can do is what I've done. All I can say is what I've said. And all I can pray for is the ability for us to understand that there were more people who prayed to make that record than there were praying right now to make that record disappear. And I think it's time for us to say amen and speak up, to stand up and get to the real of where we're at. Because it ain't our fault. We all love that government cheese, and nobody to this day can tell me what the hell they put in it wherever we got it from. It was free. Still free. But all of what we got now as adults and whatnot around us and our future are genetic mutations of that. And the audacity of us to actually use the principles of a generation that no longer exists morally on those people, our children, our people, is really making us look even worse than we need to be. Because there's a whole lot of sanctified white folks out there that's just glad it's just us talking about the same damn subject that they use on theirs too. Church girl, church boy. You're okay to screw in the dark, but you want to condemn them Sunday morning. It's time for all of that to stop. I am Alpha Master Pimp, Sir Easy. Active dominant in the BDSM community. Ghetto Sufi Master in advanced training in hell. This is WNDC. NDC. WNDC. NDC stands for We in the Crib and You Ain't. And like, share, subscribe. And if you can, donate. My Cash App's in there. Info. But let's talk about this. Because you know damn well, if you could see it, yeah, you good?